What's up, Raiders? Bionic here. Welcome to today's Raid Shadow Legends video, where we are going to go over some very valuable information for you guys, especially that Doom Tower is just around the corner. I've been doing a little bit of research, so I have some screenshots for you guys. We're going to look at my spreadsheet. I have basically a whole lot of information to prove to you guys that some of the champions I'm going to present to you today are actually end-game worthy. And I'm talking about mainly rares, and I'm talking about farmables. Alright, so this is not the first time we go over these champions, but with the evidence I'll show you today, maybe you'll rethink whether or not you should build them. Alright, and in some cases, some of them actually offer very unique kits, stuff that is really hard to obtain in the game, even from legendaries. Alright, so let's get right into it with the first one, and we're going to go over the basically campaign to cover these champions and what makes them so good. The first one is Valkyrie. I think she's extremely underrated. I even built her myself. I am using her in the end game, and the reason we really like her is number one for the shield, which also has a heal, but mainly for this skill right here, which once ascended will increase the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn. That's pretty rare. Not a lot of champions in the game can do this, and then it also decreases the duration of all debuffs on all allies by 1 turn. You get stunned by the clan boss, this can in fact cleanse it. Alright, so in the beginning it's very hard to obtain a cleanser. Valkyrie can pull that off for you guys. In fact, like I said, she's in my Bannerlords Faction Wars 21, right here, fully built. I even made a full build video on Valkyrie, endgame Valkyrie Seer support. She can support the Seer for some of my dungeon runs, so that's not nothing. That's actually pretty useful. And I even have this little bit of information. This is old. Okay, so don't copy this, don't ask me for details on this team, but somebody was using this along with a Krisk and a counterattack champion. Okay, so, you know, not necessarily easy to get, but like with the Valkyrie to extend debuffs and then use it as the cleanse. And he was getting on full auto about 18.5 million on the Ultra Nightmare Clan boss. I mean, that's not nothing. You know, this champion, which is farmable from like the first campaign or the first chapter of the campaign actually being this end game worthy, I think that's actually pretty solid. All right, now let's move on to the next one on the list, which is going to be, I'm gonna say, at least an honorable mention. He might not exactly be worth maxing out, but because of the way he works with Skull Lord Vargal, for me, he made Lizardman Faction Wars that much easier, and that is the proof that I have for you guys right here, and that's what I have in my team. 6 minutes and 24 seconds on full auto. Skullsworn is taking all the aggro from the boss. He's dying, that's perfect. He's being revived by Scorelord Vorgal with the Broadma as an extra revive. This guy is basically just a meat shield, right? And that works. I consider that to be endgame worthy, but the great thing about him is that if you're only going to use him for this, he does not need to be maxed out. Moving on to the next chapter, there's unfortunately no champions in the third chapter, like Sorceress right here. I believe, yeah, Sorceress. I don't think she's endgame worthy, so nobody really uses her. Then we go on to the Durham Forest, chapter 4, and we have our trusty Spirit Host. A lot of people perhaps give up on Spirit Host, right? Because you get like Gorgrab. Spirit Host is important in the beginning because it's your 50% increased attack. Everybody goes for Spirit Host. I did that myself. Then eventually you get like High Cocoon. You can do High Cocoon, Spirit Host, War Maiden in your starter champion. That seems to be the most universal build for like the arena early on. But she also has this skill right here, which I think is very underrated. Why? Only 2 other champions in the game can do this, to remove all debuffs from all allies and then place a block debuffs on all allies by 1 turn. I'm thinking that in Doom Tower, Spirit Host might actually come in very handy. Here are the other 2 champions that can pull it off. You have Hawkhorn Smash Lord and you have Skytouch Shaman. I covered that in my top 5 block debuffs champion video at some point. Maybe it was top 10, I forget. But Spirit Host, although she did not make the top 10, she's in fact pretty good for that. All right, so maybe you'll reconsider building yours, or maybe like me, you'll kind of regret burning your level 50 Spirit Host, which was fully ascended and all skills done, right? So definitely on my list. I'll also give an honorable mention to Greybeard. This is not Gnarlhorn, I get it, but AoE freeze on a 40% chance of working is pretty decent in the beginning. You don't have a lot of crowd control champions early on, so greybeard might actually be useful in that sense. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing a Spider 20 video using greybeard as a crowd control champion, perhaps with another crowd control champion, let's say like a stun set bellower of the sort, but that is usually enough to control the spiderlings, or at least enough for like your, let's say, your damage dealers to survive, right? We also have the provoke on the A1, and then he self counterattacks with the provoke. That means you can maintain a good amount of crowd control on a certain amount of champions, so good honorable mention for this one. Then we're going to move on to the next chapter 5. Unfortunately, that guy we don't really like. Then in the chapter number 6, we're going to cover RARES. She has an interesting kit. In fact, somebody just built her recently, and I'll give him a shout out in a second, but she has the ability to grant an extra turn if the target is killed. You also have the ability to place a 30% increased speed once fully booked, and then she counterattacks when the attacker or when an ally is attacked. Okay, so very interesting to see. So this shout out goes to Stu Gaming for testing her recently with some pretty insane gear. We're getting some pretty solid hits, and he's running Dragon 20 with a team of all rares. Look at our Spirit Host in there as well, even our War Maiden, which we'll get to in a second. We have Gnarlhorn. It's not, like I said, greybeard, but still I feel like greybeard could almost be in here. So huge shout out to Stu Gaming for actually building her. I knew she was useful for something, so she deserves to be on this list for sure. Then chapter 7 and 8 we're going to unfortunately skip. I mean, Templar has an interesting kit, but like unfortunately I really don't see him being used that much in the end game. Then we go on to chapter 9, two of my favorite champions in the game. Let's of course talk about our War Maiden. AoE decreased defense on a 3-turn cooldown, right? I mean, that's just huge. But somebody also built her for a lot of damage recently, and that shout out goes to Ash. He got her up to 330% crit damage. So let's watch this hit right here on this team of legendaries. What kind of damage can we do? Here we go with that big AoE and all of that crit damage. We have decreased defense. Boom! 81k, 75k, 60k. I mean, right? A rare champion, farmable rare champion. Yeah, you need crazy gear. Yeah, you need an endgame account. But the point is that some of the farmable rares are good enough for the endgame, and that's another proof right there. Then I'm also going to cover the next one of my favorite ones, Berserker. Extremely underrated. I don't know why people don't use him that much. In the beginning, a spirit attack type nuker is really hard to obtain, especially that last year also we had a lot of force type sort of like tank champions, like a Rain Beast last year was a big problem. This guy was my solution to Rain Beast. He could take him down in almost like one shot. With better gear, I'm pretty sure he could one shot a lot of champions. I kind of like this skill with the ignore 20% of each target's defense. Okay, it attacks 2 times. We also have the grant an extra turn if the target is killed on the A2, and then we have a 30% turn meter boost if the attack is critical. This guy can snowball. In fact, I did a build video on Berserker. Let me pull it up. Endgame Berserker, Speed Farmer, I got him down to roughly, I don't know, like maybe close to 10-ish seconds if I recall correctly. This guy can pull it off for you. And also, if you're lacking that Spirit type nuker for the arena, this guy can also pull it off for you, okay? So again, I think he's extremely underrated. We got 12 seconds on that run, all right? So Berserker certainly deserves to be on my list today. And finally, I'll also show you guys that, hey, he's endgame worthy still. Why? Because he's good enough for Faction Wars Stage 21 of the Barbarian's Crypt with my Berserker and my War Maiden in there, alright? So if that's not endgame worthy for you guys, I don't know what is. Moving on to the next one, which is not going to be a rare. It is going to be Soros. Good old Soros. I don't need to talk too much about him, but the AoE A1 made him a very sought-after champion for speed farming. For like your brutal 12-3 farmer, right? A lot of people built a Soros specifically for that. Being an uncommon, it was a little bit harder to get good damage out of him later on, but I feel like a lot of people still went for that, and I consider that to be endgame worthy. Unless, of course, you try to build, let's say, like your starter champion to be that farmer instead, that could work as well. But AoE A1 is actually really hard to obtain in the beginning. So Soros deserves to be on the list, even though he's an uncommon. All right, moving on to the next one, and it is going to be in Chapter 11, Executioner. Last year, this guy was a legendary. Before he was nerfed, this guy was better than a lot of champions in the game. Nowadays, people don't use him that much, but with the proof that I'm going to show you right here, which is this Executioner, stage 21 Night Rev, this is almost exactly the team that I have, except I have a Soros in here. Executioner could do that job. He could literally be on par probably with my Soros, okay? So if that's not endgame worthy, I don't know what is. This guy was also almost able to solo the Minotaur 15 last year. He was able to solo some of the dungeons. Like, he was overpowered, but I think he still deserves an honorable mention and should be on this list of endgame worthy rares that are farmable. And then we're going to move on to the last chapter, one that you all know about. Apparently she can kind of help you cheese the faction wars for demon spawn. That is Diabolist, for the simple reason that she has also AoE, right? An AoE right here with a 30% increased speed, and then she has a 15% turn meter boost and then turn meter reduction on the enemies. I also have a screenshot right here of a player that used a Diabolist to finish Demon Spawn Crypt stage 21. Apparently, if you put like 2 or even 3 Diabolists and 1 Allure, that's basically enough to do all of the Demon Spawn Crypt. That's how good she is. Although I wouldn't exactly suggest you build 3 of her, but if you can get away with having like 2 at level 40, 1 at level 50, and your level 60 Allure, that's worth it. That is end game worthy in my opinion, but I still believe that even 1 Diabolist fully maxed out on your account might come in handy a little bit later. So that is unfortunately something that I also got rid of. So here are some of my regrets. I got rid of my Spirit Host, I got rid of my Executioner, I got rid of my Diabolist, but luckily for me, I kept more copies down here somewhere, so I'm probably gonna have to rebuild them at some point. I'm not sure, but we'll see with Doom Tower. Anyway, all that being said, guys, I want to know what you guys think about this list of top or end game worthy rares, at least 8 of them. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys later.